Childhood Development Child Care Scholarship Program alterations. This bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education to establish a process for granting presumptive eligibility for a subsidy under the Child Care Scholarship Program. It also requires the department to award a subsidy to an individual in an amount sufficient to ensure that an individual will not have to pay a copay for child care if the individual provides proof of 1, participation in one of several specified state or federal programs, and 2, employment or enrollment in an education or career training program. There is one amendment in your packet starting on page 3, and there is a reprint. So this is from Senator King, the sponsor of the bill. First, this would prohibit the department or the comptroller from seeking reimbursement or repayment of a subsidy provided to an individual during the presumptive eligibility period if the individual is later determined to be ineligible, except for cases of fraud. It strikes participation in the Guaranteed Access Grant as one of the programs for which participation by an applicant requires the awarding of a subsidy when the individual will not be required to pay a copay. It requires the department to notify the comptroller instead of the department within 9 days after receipt of a daycare provider invoice. And that's a House amendment, and requires the comptroller to pay within 6 days of the date the comptroller receives notice of the invoice. That's also a House amendment.
Ms. Goodman, take a minute to explain, currently if someone gets a subsidy, do they have to pay a copay? I mean, if you're income eligible and you use child care, just give us a little tutorial.
So the federal law now, it encourages having skin in the game, requiring people who do qualify for the subsidy to pay a co-payment or contribute to the cost of daycare for the most part. Obviously, some individuals, their income may be low enough or they qualify for certain programs in which they don't have to pay a copay or the copay can be waived. So presumptive eligibility means that at the current time, an individual has to submit an application, all the forms have to be verified, and at the point of verification, then the individual can start receiving the benefit or the subsidy. Presumptive eligibility says the moment that the individual files the form, they are considered presumptively eligible for the program and begin receiving the benefit right away while the verification process happens. So this will essentially shift to allow them to receive the benefit much quicker so that you don't have to delay by all the paperwork because it can be quite extensive. And further, it complies with certain provisions in the law as it was amended in 2016.
And I'm just going to ask another question, then I'll go to you, Senator. How many of the current people currently eligible will this help? How widespread will this money go?
That's a very good question, and I don't really have an answer to that. I have sought that information, but MSD has said that they hadn't previously tracked that information, so we're working on it.
But it's not going to cover all the awardees. This is really for people who are either employed or career training or in some kind of state program?
No. So that is for if you qualify for those certain programs, starting on page 3, participation in those programs, that is so that you don't have to pay the copay. Shall award a subsidy in an amount sufficient to ensure that an individual will not be required to pay a copay for child care if they provide proof of participation in those programs. Presumptive eligibility will begin for any applicant. It's not set aside. It says they shall establish a process that meets requirements of this subsection for granting presumptive eligibility for a subsidy. So it's not setting aside.
Okay. So it does two things. Mm-hmm. It creates a scholarship where people don't have to do the copay for, I'm looking now about 2,100 children. And the other thing is it changes the presumptive eligibility for everybody.
Correct.
Okay. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate those questions. That helped. My question is about presumptive eligibility, which we all clearly understand the value of that. But given the issues we've had with fraud and abuse with the unemployment program, what are the safeguards with presumptive eligibility for this program?
Well, the safeguards are, they have to verify their income, and they still have to provide the documentation. It just, the benefit starts accruing just a little bit earlier, and then it allows the person to not be waylaid essentially by waiting to get whatever the documentation is.
So you're confirming that the verification is done before they receive benefits, and what this is really doing is, I guess, expediting some of the paperwork process?
Well, it's expediting the part where you get the benefit, not the paperwork process. So the paperwork process is probably going to be about the same. The individual submits the form, and they have to attest in that form that they essentially believe that they meet the eligibility requirements, and they're set by federal law. So once they've done that and the form goes in, then under presumptive eligibility, they'll begin to start receiving the benefit. While at the same time, they have to provide whatever documentation is required about their income level, number of people in their family, whether they're in the job training program, whether they're enrolled in one of those programs.
So, but is there any check when they first submit that first form, and they're at that point eligible for the benefit and can start receiving it, is there at least there's a first check on that verification, and then the additional checks and balances are conducted?
I can't say for certain. They have to attest in a document, meaning signing, and that they agree that under probably penalty of perjury, that they agree that they meet these baseline qualification or eligibility requirements.
Senator Washington.
If someone is found not eligible, what happens?
So if someone is found not eligible, this is what the Senator King's amendment would do, is that it would require the state to pick up the cost for that time that they received the benefit but were later determined to be ineligible. Under federal law, the federal government, it's called a disallowance. It's an improper payment. You cannot use federal funds to pay for ineligible recipients. So in this case, they're essentially saying, for the most part, most people who are found ineligible under the program right now is due to paperwork. It's not due to actual ineligibility under the requirements. So it will be a bit of a cost to the state if certain individuals who first apply are later determined to be ineligible. But at this time, and I did ask specifically MSDE what those numbers are, they didn't have any to give me.
Okay, thank you.
Senator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to say I have a constituent. It seemed like this bill is written for her. She lost her husband, COVID, and they were the guardians of 2 grandchildren. And the exact issues in this bill, being addressed by this bill, she had. And so it's almost like the sponsor, put this bill in for her through me, or through me through her, whatever. So I definitely support this bill.
Thanks. Sandrellis wants to be a co-sponsor. And, yeah, since it was his idea, obviously.
Be a co-sponsor on this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask one other question. Sure. I understand that the person applying has to apply within 15 days. Do we know how long the department is taking in processing these and investigating them? Because it's not just on the applicant. In other words, they're waiting on the department to approve the application. So part of this delay is not necessarily on the applicant, it's on the department. I couldn't tell in the fiscal note if we had any sense of how long it's been taking.
It has been taking, but regulations require them to act on an application within 30 days. That's what the regulations say. But as to right now, how long it takes from the moment they submit a form to the moment they actually get verified, I don't have.
Okay, is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved, seconded. Can Can we use the same two people to move the sponsor amendments? Seeing no objection. On the amendments, seeing no discussion, amendments are approved. There's a second amendment to add the good senator as a co-sponsor. Anybody else wish to be on it? Senator Hester, Senator Washington? No objection. Okay, the bill's amended with the two amendments. Seeing no discussion or lights, I will assume it's a 10-0 in favor, and we'll go to the floor with a favorable recommendation. Let's go to 318.
Sorry, LaMaria, thank you. Senate Bill 318, More Opportunities for Career-Focused Students Act of 2022. This bill requires local school systems to assist high school students in preparing for admission to registered apprenticeship programs in a manner similar to how they assist students in preparing for admission to post-secondary institutions. They do this by requiring a county board that uses a certain platform to provide a method to opt out of the release of the student's personal information and platform results to apprenticeship sponsors and employers registered with the Department of Labor or local workforce development boards. It also requires public high schools to inform students of employment and skill opportunities in the same manner as it informs students of post-secondary opportunities. And further, it requires the county board to pay to take an apprenticeship exam, entrance exam, or an industrial certification exam if it pays for certain standardized tests for entrance into post-secondary educational institutions. There is one amendment from Senator Rosa Pepp, the sponsor. That's on page 2 of your packet. And this essentially makes it an opt-in to release the personal information in the platform instead of an opt-out.
Favorable?
Is there a second? Okay, second. You want to take a question, or you want to move to the amendment, Senator Carrozza?
I wanted to understand the opt-in amendment.
It's on 2. So it says that a county board that uses a platform, and a platform is defined here as a college and career readiness software that helps school systems and schools align student strengths and interests to post-secondary goals and careers. So if they use a platform like this, they have to provide in the platform a method for a student or a student's parent or guardian to choose not to authorize the release of their personal information and platform results to apprenticeship sponsors or these various employers. This is an opt-out. They would automatically release that information if they participated. So what this amendment does is say now they have to opt into releasing your personal information instead of automatically releasing that.
So would that be the students and the parents agreeing to have that? The opt-in? Is that how that works?
It says student or parent. So the student could, I guess, opt in to release that information, or the parent or guardian could really opt in to release.
So to opt in, there would be some effort to inform these students of this opportunity.
Right, correct. I mean, that's the whole point. This bill is to provide notice to these various students of these opportunities. But there was some concern mentioned by various stakeholders that they didn't like the opt-out provision and would prefer that students have the opportunity to say, yes, you can release my information instead of automatically releasing that information.
Move the amendment.
Second. Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, any objection to the amendment? Then the amendment's adopted. The bill as amended, discussion?
Question for council. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say I fully support this bill. I'm a co-sponsor, and I appreciate the sponsor's strong support of apprenticeships. My question is on page 2, where, starting on line 16, where it says, in the same manner in which the school informs students of post-secondary education options, they shall inform the students of employment and skills training opportunities available through, number one is apprenticeship sponsors, and number two is employers registered with the Maryland Department. And so my question is, does that include everybody, or is there some group of like, that's not included in that? Like, are every single apprenticeship registered with the Division of Workforce Development?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the ones that participate through probably MSDE and through public high schools, I would imagine that they would have to be registered with the department before they could participate. But does that mean that every available opportunity is registered there? I don't know.
So if we were thinking about like one of the union groups, like the International Brotherhood of Electric Contractors or whatever it is, would they fall under number one?
Right, if they were registered with, then yes, I mean,
Okay, just curious. Thank you so much.
sure.
Yeah, I think we didn't want to fly by night, so they have to at least be registered with the state. Senator?
Just wanted to be amended on as a co-sponsor.
Any objections, seeing none, adopted? Okay, the bill with the two amendments, the opt-in and adding Senator Carrozza. Discussion, seeing none. I assume it is a 10-0 affirmative vote to send it to the floor as amended. Okay, that does it for this list. We'll probably be meeting during the day, so I can't tell you. We'll be putting some bills on. We may be putting bills on. I just don't know. I got to meet with committee counsel. Things we heard last week that we didn't get to. You know, they may make crossover, they may not. I've tried to move as many bills as possible without having to stay super late. So just keep an ear out. It's expected we'll have 3 sessions today, and I assume at least once we'll be back in committee. Questions?
Senator Simonaire traded me this bill for 2 first-round draft picks. So I'll be presenting on the floor for your information, Purple Star Schools 234. If that's okay with you. Yep, thank you.
It's not a science, huh? You get states' rights?
I can tell that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. That's why you're minority leader. Okay, don't forget, I did write my check today for committee dinner, so we'll be delivering the next hour, but I did write it. So let's keep on top of that, and with that, I'll see you on the floor.
One more thing?
Yeah.